exercise. I hope I won't face any more issues with the software. So first allow me to introduce the new exercise. So in the previous exercise, we were trying to assess the impact of a type of hazard event on the built environment because of its location with respect to an urban area or urban area and also farmlands in the vicinity of a city. But in this case, now we were moving to a fire event where it's a wildfire event, so the event is not taking place in the vicinity of the city. It's close to a city, but it's not having a direct impact on the city. But it will take some impact and damage on the vegetation located in the forest in the vicinity of the city. So what we will assess as damage, as impact for this case is the impact on the vegetation. So the burnt areas inside of this forest. And our approach in order to map the fire event is to exploit the spectral signature for the vegetation in case of a healthy vegetation and in case of a burnt vegetation. So you have already seen this particular image with respect to the spectral signature or the reflectance of in case of a healthy vegetation where the near infrared has a high reflectance. But there is also the case that the burnt areas can be quite highlighted with the use of shortwave infrared inside of the electromagnetic spectrum. So in this case, we will make use of two bands which allow us to model the burn severity or damage inside of a forest that has passed through a fire event. So this specific, the specific index can be modeled in this way. Let me show you. So we will estimate an index called the normalized burnt ratio that profits from these differences in between the two bands that we will use of near infrared and shortwave infrared to remark the burnt areas and to have an estimate on how severe these areas have been impacted. For the purpose of this, we're also using Sentinel-2 imagery, and the corresponding bands to this near infrared signature and the shortwave infrared signature are bands 8A and 12. We will make use of this in order to create this ratio. However, we're only estimating it for the let's say in a screenshot of time. So this is just for watching if the vegetation is healthy or not in a single moment of time. So we will compute this in the pre-event and in the post-event. And then what we can do in order to assess how the vegetation has been damaged is to make the difference in between this ratio that we have estimated in post and pre-event. So basically what we will do is to make this difference, and then with these estimates we will select an appropriate symbology that will allow us to assess the damage inside the vegetation. Okay, so what we can do now is go back inside our project and move into our folder of the wildfire scenario. So if you open the folder EO browser, you will find again two different zip files containing the pre and post event imagery. And here you will find the two different bands that I was mentioning before for the near infrared and for the shortwave infrared. So please add the two bands inside our group of layers for the wildfire case. So here we have the ones for our pre-event. And now let's add the ones also for our post-event. So again, I added it twice. So I have to remove the ones of the pre-event. So by now you should have only 4 different layers inside of your group of layers. 2 for each pre and post event, 1 for the band 8A and the other one for the band 12. Now what we can do is to first, again, as we did for the population layer previously, to crop the area so that we can limit let's say the processing that we have to do with respect to this event. So if we go to our folder of the grading products that was delivered by the activation of the Copernicus Rapid Mapping Service, if you look inside the folder of grading products, then open the zip file, you can find again the area of interest file or layer. Please add the JSON layer inside our map and set it on top of the other ones so we can visualize it. Okay. Now what we can do is to start making the computation that we highlighted at the beginning of the exercise so that we can identify which are the burnt areas. So to do this, we will take advantage of the plugin that was introduced yesterday, the semi-automatic classification plugin. And in this case, we will make use of the tool of raster calculator. So if you go inside the SCP option, please verify that you have it. And then select on where is it? Wait 1 second. If you click on SCP band calculator, you will see this window. Inside of here, we still don't have any layers added. I don't know if you have, I don't. So what we can do is to refresh the list so that we can visualize the different layers that we have inside the project. Now I will have the different raster data that has been added in the project. So we have one corresponding to each of the layers that we have. So we have the pre and post event layers. So now we have to compute the expression that we have for the normalized burnt ratio. So we can just start writing the expression. If you want, you can double click on each of the layers so that it automatically writes the name of the layer that will be used in the expression. So for example, we're going to compute the one for the pre-event. So these first two that are for September 4th to 2020. So if you double click on one of them, it will automatically appear the naming of that. So make sure that we're computing the following expression. So, sorry. So in this case, for the pre-event, we will make the estimates or the difference between the band 8 minus band 12 divided by band 8 plus band 12 for the pre-event. So I will go back to our window for the expression. So here we have band 8 for the 4th of September 2020, and this we will compute the difference first. So the numerator of this division is this one. Now we can close it. Then divided by, open parentheses again, and again double click on band 8 plus double click on band 12. If the expression is correctly written, it will appear as green. And then you can run the expression so that it creates our new dataset that represents the normalized burnt index. So if you run, then you will be asked to select where you would like to store this file. So let's say I will save it inside of our EO browser folder. And I will tell that this is the normalized burn ratio for the pre-event. And then you can save it. Okay, you will receive some tone telling you that the operation was over, and now you will have added the new layer of the computation that you have done. Now what we have to do is to repeat the same operation, but for the post-event layers, so that we can make the comparison in between the two situations of the vegetation. So if we go back again to SCP and click on band calc, open the window again. And now, again, if your layers are still not visible, you can refresh the view. Here I will have the new raster layer that was the output from our previous expression. Now we have to do the other one for our post event. So it's band number 8 minus band number 12. Make sure that corresponds to the post event. So in this case, the imagery for the post event is on 14th of September of 2020. Divided by, open parentheses, and then double click again on the layers and close the expression. Once that you have input the expression inside of your this raster calculator, or alternative to the raster calculator, you can again run the output or run the tool. Again, you will be asked to provide a name to this new file that you're producing. We will call this NBR post event. And then save it. After this, it will start executing the expression that we have set for our post event NBR. Okay, in my case, it has already finished. So now we have our normalized burn ratio indexes for both pre-event and post-event. However, in this case, it's still difficult to assess what's the difference in between pre and post-event. However, if you start to, let's say, turning on and off the layers for the two phases of the event, you will notice that there are some parts of the imagery that are darker in the case of the post-event. So you can start imagining that these are the places where you have had a fire. So as you can see in this part, also around here and here, the images turn darker. However, this is just a visual exercise. Still, we don't understand which is the severity of the damages that have been done from the fire. So what we can do is to make the difference in between the two layers. And to do so, we will again make use of the band calculator. So if you go to SCP, go to the band calculator tool, erase the previous expression that we used. In this case, I don't have the post-event raster, so I have to refresh the view and it will appear. And now we simply have to do the difference in between the post-event and the pre-event normalized burn ratio. So NBR post-event minus NBR pre-event. So we're executing this expression. Then we can proceed to run this. I will save it as the NBR. Then save it. Okay, once it has finished, you will have your new layer of the NBR. And if you set it on top, you will notice that the darker parts highlight the areas which possibly have been affected by a fire. So we have over here, which lies within our area of interest. So let me put this on top of our map. Then the city is located in this region. And then the fire took place in a forest near the area. So now what we can do is to provide some additional understanding of this new difference of normalized burn ratio that we have found at last. And what we can do is to work with these estimates to provide some symbology to identify the severity of the burning in this case. So what we can do is to assign a symbology to this layer according to the values that were estimated. So if you right click on the DNVR layer, and if you go to properties, what we will do now is to provide a symbology accordingly to some ranges of values that have been defined to classify the burn severity by according to the experience. So there have been people that have been worked on different cases and have found according to on-field experience that these specific ranges of values are useful to remark which are the most burnt areas. However, it's useful to note that these specific ranges of values that we're going to use over here are not, let's say, absolute. They're not rigid. So from case to case, they can vary because not all the vegetation is the same. So it's something that is worth to be mentioned. And in many cases, it's better to have in-field experienced people that can assess the actual damage of the vegetation. So I will search for the values that we were going to use for classifying our estimates. You can find it over here. So these are some classification provided by the USGS, so the United States Geological Service, that will allow us to interpret the burn severity. So if we go back to our QGIS and our symbology window, again, on render type, select the single band pseudocolor classification. Now, what we will do is to provide, again, an interpolation discrete. Wait, it's not. Sorry, 1 second. Yes, so on single band pseudocolor, on interpolation method, select the discrete. And what we will do now is to compose a color ramp according to the notation that has been provided by the USGS. So to create this new color ramp, if you open the color ramp menu, you can find the option Create New Color Ramp. Here we will select the option Color Presets to compose our own color ramp and assigning the corresponding hex color coding, and then click on OK. Now you will have this window, and in this case you can start adding the different codes that are provided in the table. So if you double click on the symbol, then it will appear in this window where you can insert the different codes for each of the colors. But to make this step faster, I have also provided a file that that contains the styling for this case. So in case you would like to do it one by one, you access, change the color with the coding that has been provided, then click on OK, and then add a new one with this button, it will appear another symbol, then you will change again the values and so on. But here I will recommend to click on this library to load a styling. Go to our wildfire library. Inside of the wildfire library, I would ask you to go to the EO browser folder. And in here you will find another folder called layer styles. Please enter this file. Here select the option all files. And then select the option dnvr customized.txt. Then open. Okay, now the file is corrupted. It seems like. So what I would suggest, then I will go step by step on creating the different categories. So let me put back this here. And if you want to follow this part, I would recommend you will have to input this specific coding inside our map composition. Wait, I will put it side by side. So single ones with color. Okay, so now we can begin. In this case, let's enter this part. Here we will change the notation to the first category. So 29 BD to E. Then if you select OK, it will change the color to this one. Here you can also start changing the label. So if you select the layer and hit the key F2, it will allow you to edit this naming. So here we will name it as unburned. Then we will add another symbol and proceed to add the next coding. So FFDE00. OK. And again, select the symbol, hit on the key F2, and provide a different label. So in this case, in this color, we will model the low severity damage of the vegetation. After this, we can move on with the adding the other different stylings. So the next one, FF9100. Okay. this orange. I can rename the label accordingly. So this orange color will model the moderate low severity. And so on. So in this case, we'll have heat 3003. Okay. Modify again the labels. And at last, the high severity values. Okay. So if the vegetation is completely destroyed, it will be modeled in this purple color. Okay, now we have finished with this part. What we could do is also to export the colors, and so that we don't have to repeat these steps again. So let's save it. Make sure that the file is saved as .gpl. So let's call this dnvr styling or style. So later you don't have to repeat this step again. You just have to.
Sorry, but I have only the TXT format when I try to save the color ramp.
Oh. Does anyone else has this issue, or are you able to save the .gpl file? 1 second, okay.
Maybe
I wouldn't understand.
I found the problem. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now that we have saved our styling and also assigned the color symbology, we click on OK. Now we will define our categories according to the number of classes that we have identified over here. So what we will do is to limit this according to a number of classes. So in this case, we have 5 different classes, so we can leave this as it is. So, or if you have a different value, you can change it. Then what you can do next is to modify the value for the ranges that will be used. So here, please set the values to -0.1. The second one to 0.27. Third one to 0.44. Fourth one to 0.66. And the last one as 1.3. So you will be noticing that the ranges of values are changing the labels for the ranges of values are changing accordingly to the values that have been defined here.
Sorry, the green one shouldn't be the first one.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
just to be sure, I made it that way, so I was confused.
Yes. So you're completely right. You have to first classify the values. So first you have to classify the values and then proceed to change them. So. It's a bit confusing because it's changing the order as you change the values, but yes, you should try to keep the same order as you're providing to the customized color ramp. Then it's the red one, 66. Yes, so at this point it should look in this way. And then we can apply the changes that have been done to our layer. Okay. There is something which I probably mix up. So the symbology values.
But
yes.
No, when I apply the new value, all the color for me begin yellow. When I try to change the value in the table, but I see that for me, when I see the value proposed, the value, the minimum value is minus 0.6, and the maximum value is a 7 measure of 7.6. There are values that are completely different from in respect the value that we are entering. But I try.
Yes, but this has to do with the computation of the estimates. So if you want, we can go back to the raster calculator to verify that we're using the right layers to compute this index or this ratio.
Okay. I try to change another time.
So I can repeat that part for the normalized learned ratio.
I'm sorry, I did something that I guess it worked. If you go to properties and you put the minimum value, sorry, yes, they're below band 1. So if you put there above the yes, there. If you put minus 0.1 and in the other one you put 1.3, that's the minimum and maximum value. I guess the
you're trimming the data set
yes.
into the symbology, which is true. Yes. So.
Sorry.
But sorry, I have all the image green.
Yes, but if you zoom
yellow. Yeah, but you have all the image yellow.
No, because if you apply, you can have the most area, it's green, and if you zoom it, you can see the affected areas. They are smaller.
but no, I mean that Juan Fernando have the image yellow.
Yeah, but
yes, but I got mine all green, and some points are yellow, reds.
Yeah. In fact, for me too. But some points are black, and so I think that maybe we have to write major than 1.3 and minus than 0.1, because there are some values that are major of that value. This could be the case.
Maybe.
Because if you choose equal interval, I think that
yeah,
This is what I see in my.
but how can we tell that all the value major than 1.3 should be drawn in a violet? That's a way
to assess why this classification was defined.
The higher classification.
Mm-hmm.
To say that all the values that are major of 0.66 should be drawn in the in a purple color.
This classification has been made by people who are experienced on how to assess this type of damage to the vegetation. So what they do is, once they have the experience on which areas are affected at a certain extent, then they have also this input with respect to the estimates, and they can define, okay, according to this range, we can tell that this specific type of vegetation have been damaged in a certain way. Let's say it's a tentative indexing just to describe the severity of the damage to the vegetation, but it comes from experience. It's not that there is a unit that defines that a specific value represents more damaged vegetation. But, I'll open these.
Okay.
Because in practice, to do this type of assessments, you have to go to the location to understand which is the actual damage. We're just taking advantage for some previous assessment that has been done. Let's let me. Okay, I wanted to show you how it should have went, but let me go back to the previous version. So I don't know if you, by the end, here I removed the last classification. So these are transparent, but is this similar to the result that you got?
Yeah, but
Yes?
no.
No?
But
no, not in that area. I have some colors, but not within the cropped one, the one with the layer, the top layer.
There, I may have done some mistake while computing the estimates, so I will repeat this step again.
But I think that area of interest is positioned in a different place.
Which one? For this case, it should be.
Yeah, in fact, I think that it's. No, I don't understand.
Is this the same one that you have?
Well, I'm trying to find that image, but I haven't. Is the pre or post image? No, because I have only the grade image, not that image with that map.
Yeah, sorry, Okay, so there should be this image, right?
No, the rectangle for me has another form, is different from that.
Maybe it's this one.
The area of interest. Maybe I.
Is it like this one?
No. Is a rectangle, but it's slightly different.
Maybe it is the one for the image. So the extent of the image that was used for the delineation or the grading activities, the image footprint. So in this one, maybe.
I try. Image footprint JSON.
Yes.
Yes, is.
Is it that one?
Well, is larger than high. It's quite. It seemed to it stretched. It seems stretched in horizontal. Well, but which coordinating system are you using?
Well, I'm the base map
because I'm
this one is
using
the EPSG 3857. So
I think I'm
I
using
can change
32632 APSG.
which one? Sorry.
VGS 84 UTM zone 32 Nord.
Okay, I can look at it. Okay.
Maybe I have to change the system.
Okay, it should be this one. No, working with that is fine, given that we're in Italy, so it's okay to work with that. Then the projected map should be like this, so maybe this is the visualization that you have.
Yeah, but yes, but my map is horizontal, not rotated. It's not rotated, my map, my bitmap. My bitmap is not rotated.
Yes.
In the corner, on the lower right corner of the window, I see EPSG 4326.
Okay, that's the WGS 84. So
yeah, I have that visualization.
Okay. Then what I can verify is that I computed correctly the indexes with respect to this part. So please allow me to do so. So pre-event.
this?
Let's see. I am ending up in the same visualization as before. No, there is something wrong with the ranges of the values. At some point, I may have made a mistake for this. The expected product that we should have arrived at this point was to visualize the degree of severity of the burnt areas. So if we focus only on the ones which have a moderate to high severity, you will be able to see this specific configuration. So in this case, if you remember from the images that we saw when we were computing the normalized burnt ratio, there were these areas in a dark color, in a black color, so which were representing the possibly burnt areas. The other thing that we can do, once that we have estimated the impact on the vegetation, is to assess how can also these type of events affect the population, so we can proceed to visualize it with different information regarding the built settlements. So similarly as we did for the flood exercise, we added some layers containing information about the buildings and the population, which are also available inside of the datasets. And here I will show you, but unfortunately I have finished the time to do this. In this part, you will notice that if you make use of the quick OSM plugin, there will be very few amount of buildings. But this is due to the low activity in this place with respect to OSM. So in this case, it can be useful to contact, let's say, local authorities to get more detailed information about the built environment, and also to visit local websites or data providers for the cadastral information of the built environment, to have a reference on how this type of emergency can affect the population in the area. For example, in this particular case, there was the issue regarding the, not specifically the fire on the population, but of the smoke on the population. So there are different type of side events that can affect the population, and it's something to be taken into account by the civil protection from the corresponding area of interest. There is detailed information about both or the different data sets and how you can retrieve them inside of the website. So I hope that can be useful. And with this, I believe we can finish this part of the afternoon